BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Drum and bass is everywhere. The fast beating heart of your workouts, the pure release of your nights out. And it's still breaking new ground. This is the story of how it rose and rose. I'm DJ Flight, and this is Turn It Up, a short history of drum and bass. Episode 7, Renaissance.
Get your hands up 'cause you think you got it. Going crazy when I even started.
In 2012, DJ Fresh did the unthinkable. He gave drum and bass its first UK #1. It was a huge moment for this culture. High Contrast remembers cheering from the sidelines.
I think at the time, no one really expected a drum and bass track was going to get to #1. We'd had, UKG come along and blow up, and then dubstep came along and was getting all the attention instead of drum and bass at that time, especially in America. I think having that milestone of a D&B track getting to #1, it just kind of proved, well, drum and bass is still here, we're still doing it. People who are into drum and bass are so passionate about it that I don't know if it needs a #1 or the pop remixes, but I don't think they ultimately harm it, and I think they only bring more people in and help it to grow.
The D&B remix is an important part of this whole story. From the 90s up to now, major labels have often sought our underground cool, but there came a certain point where everyone wanted the breakbeat treatment.
I think the real kind of breakthrough with remixes came with the Adele Hometown Glory remix. That might have been Adele's first ever single, so she wasn't the superstar she is now, but she was getting a lot of industry attention. There was a lot of buzz about her. But for me, a track like that, where it's a ballad, there's just a great vocal and a piano. I mean, it's just screaming out for a drum and bass mix. You can do whatever you want with it.
Some classic tunes were born out of remixes during this period, from High Contrast's Adele remix to Caliber's take on If You Wait by London Grammar.
From that meaning, the moment you tried to take me on.
I really love that remix, and I've played it so much I can't play it anymore now for a while.
Those blockbuster remixes played a big part in introducing the music to yet more people, as did the emergence of brand new acts.
This is Thursday night, y'all better get ready. And it's about 7:30 p.m. and my man Zayn is about to put on the hottest joint.
Literally the hottest joint in the world right now. Look out your window. If there's summer vibes where you are, this one will suit it perfectly. Rudimental, let's go.
With their 2012 single, Feel the Love, featuring John Newman, Rudimental, a multi-genre dance music band from East London, exploded onto the UK charts, winning D&B its second ever #1 and cementing its status as a viable vehicle for massive pop hits. Here's Piers, Leo and Kezi talking to the officialcharts.com after getting the news of their #1 win. This was major for them.
I want to do my bear dance.
Yeah. Yo, big massive respect. Thank you for everyone that's gone out there and supported us, all the fans.
Their hotly anticipated debut album was yet to drop. In the same interview, the band went on to explain their wide range of 90s influences that would inspire the new material.
My influences coming from sort of like a old school garage background. That was a big influence in my life, especially jungle as well.
Yeah, from the 90s, obviously jungle, Cool FM, Ronnie Size, Shy FX.
I think all the different influences we have are going to be seen on that album when we put it out.
Yeah, definitely have lots of different BPMs and genres on there.
Rudimental's debut LP, Home, bulldozed the industry and peaked at #1 on the UK album chart. It also birthed a second #1 single for the group, 2013's Waiting All Night featuring Ella Eyre, plus 2 top 20s and numerous accolades, including Mobo, Brit and Urban Music Awards, and a Mercury Prize nomination. Not bad for a band from Hackney. But success like that doesn't appear from nowhere. an extra large amount of self-belief and determination was needed to take them to the top over and over again. Here's Rudimental talking to On Demand Entertainment after winning Best British Single at the 2014 Brit Awards about why their second number one meant so much.
Something that's really special about Waiting All Night is that everyone was kind of against us putting it out there, and all four of us came together and we put it down, and we laid our careers on the line with Waiting All Night, and it got us through to where we are now. So that's why it's such a special track for us, definitely.
Continued mainstream success could only be good for the scene as a whole, right? The thing was, if you look at many of the artists riding D&B's popularity high into the new decade, Chase and Status, DJ Fresh, Pendulum, Sigma, Wilkinson, you'll see a pattern emerge. Productions helmed by white men. Sure, they'd often collaborate with vocalists of colour, different genders, but they were definitely in the driving seat. D&B wasn't the only genre with a gender gap or representation issues, but it had a bit of a problem for a long time. Represents Onali experienced more than her fair share of those frustrations.
One thing I must say is the women in drum and bass, it's not really drum and bass, it's music in general, you know, especially black women, we have a particular experience. You know, I remember starting out, I was quite feisty, I suppose. You know, I was very, very like, oh no, I need to get paid. It wasn't anything about the money per se, it was about respect. You know, I saw DJs, generally male DJs, just getting paid. But when you're like a vocalist, somehow it's different. People kind of treated you like you should be lucky to be there.
Chemistry and Storm were just two of the first DJs to break ground for women in drum and bass, but for quite a while, not enough others were coming through. DJ Storm.
I'd done so many talks, and my one question was, why is my scene so unattractive to women? I couldn't work it out, and it's like they couldn't see a way in for themselves.
For a very long time, it was just accepted that if you wanted to hold your own as a woman on the circuit, you had to work doubly hard.
Like DJ Rap said all those years ago, you know, if I do a bad mix, I won't get booked for 6 months. But if a guy does one, oh, he's just having an off night. And I think all the women that are out there are aware of that.
The importance of rap, Tamsin, Storm, Chemistry, and the whole first wave of female talent cannot be overstated. Where they led, we followed. Not many at first, but things did gradually begin to change. And in the early 2010s, just as D&B was enjoying its biggest mainstream appeal ever, a new generation was ready to emerge. Harriet Jackson amongst them.
So we're talking about 2011, 2012. There was still hardly any girls DJing then compared to like today. So I think the fact that I was female intrigued a lot of people because it wasn't really a common sight even then.
Harriet Jackson is part of a healthy new wave of women and non-binary artists redefining D&B as we speak. But even 10 years ago, she was still considered an anomaly.
And then I started getting booked in London at places like Brixton Jam, like 9 till 10 p.m. or like 5 till 6 a.m. I was still doing a day job full time, certainly wasn't making a living of it at that point.
So what changed then? DJ Mantra, co-founder of illustrious club night and record label Rupture, has a theory.
Women were always there in the crowds, and there were blatantly loads of DJs who were women in the crowds. It's just that next step of putting yourself out there or reaching out could often be a huge barrier. And I think social media played a massive part in terms of visibility.
The growth and expansion of platforms like Facebook and Instagram completely changed the game for marginalised DJs and producers.
The feeling of being able to connect with people even like 7 years ago was a little bit harder because you just drop anyone a DM on Instagram now, or you can do something even more subtle like a story or like a post, and then you can build that connection.
At the end of the day, it's all about visibility. Just like Storm and Chemistry inspired me to start, a new generation of female talent found a platform in the 2010s. Artists like Molly Collins, Kyrist, Coven, Jin, Amma and more. DJ Mantra.
It's almost like a snowball effect. It takes one person to kind of put their foot out and then go on to inspire loads of people. My friend Tasha, she plays drum and bass now, but also a lot of techno. She was one of the main influences for Sweet Pea, for seeing her play out. And that can literally be that much of a simplistic progression route. I see a woman on the decks and I think she's amazing. That's sick. I'm going to get into it.
It's not just the new generation of youngers that have felt the benefit of the internet. It changed the game for all of us, connecting with different communities and scenes around the world, finding new ears and audiences. DJ Storm.
And then all of a sudden, this request for me to do Boiler Room. So I talked to my good friend, Sarah, and said, what's Boiler Room? So she said, basically, do it. It's this huge kind of streaming thing.
There's something special.
That sums it up pretty well, to be fair. Boiler Room is a massive party series, live streaming sets from different scenes within electronic music from all over the world. Storm was invited to play at a Boiler Room party curated by Mum Dance and Different Circles.
I get there and met Mum Dance and asked him, why me? And of course he told me this story of when he was young, 15, and him and his mates broke into Essential Festival in Brighton, and Chemistry and Storm were the first DJs they heard, and it changed his life.
A set for Boiler Room means playing for a crowd right up close and personal, in front, behind, all around you. It's a lot of pressure and very intense. Storm played the last set at her Boiler Room. The start of it was plagued by technical difficulties, but which raves aren't?
I'm not going to walk off. Come on, I've been in pirate radio shows in much worse situations than this. Like when the studio fell on Kemi and she carried on mixing. Do you know what I mean? And I'm trying to... It was only cardboard, but it just came down on her. And I was going, and the studio's come down and she's still in the mix.
What's the difference between Boiler Room and pirate radio? The number of bodies and eyes scrutinising your every move.
And of course then we had to change the deck, and my first mix was a bit dodgy, and from the first mix it was like, oh my god, she can't even mix, why is she on Boiler Room? But of course my whole scene came out and started defending me.
For DJs like us who cut our teeth in underground clubs of the 90s, that level of exposure is a massive shock to the system. I know, I've experienced it myself. Storm took it all in her stride.
Thank you, Jack Mum Dance. I mean, you changed my whole career, you know what I mean? And people still bring it up now. And of course, it almost broke the internet, people going crazy. But even though I saw there was a lot of venom and a lot of hate and obviously wanted to knock me down, I got through it and I mixed great at the end.
For Mantra, Boiler Room and the internet in general offers an opportunity to set the record straight for specific artists and the scene as a whole. DJ live streams had been steadily growing throughout the noughties and into the tens, from drum and bass arenas D&B TV live shows to the emergence of Boiler Room, Facebook Live and later Keep Hush. These platforms can give a level of exposure not experienced via the industry's traditional routes, paying dues in underground circles and working your way up the ladder. Sherelle is one such artist whose career skyrocketed after her dynamic and energetic Boiler Room set went viral globally, setting her on the path to stardom. DJ Mantra.
She's an amazing DJ. She's been grafting for years and had this moment that kind of put her career into kind of stratospheric levels. But good. That's great. She plays loads of underground hardcore jungle to these huge crowds. It's brilliant.
Sherelle is one of the women breathing new life into the music, bringing footwork and old school jungle together, creating radical new sounds, but never forgetting the history.
This is BBC Radio 1's Residency.
Tonight
on The Residency,
Sherelle.
Flight is a woman who I should be very thankful for, has her contribution to the music scene and British broadcasting, has paved the way for someone like myself to be on the BBC. Today, welcome, DJ Flight. How are you, my love?
I'm all right, thank you. I like that intro.
It's one that you deserve.
DJ Mantra.
And so this is why when you see people like you, Flight, Storm, Ali Cat, who are actually doing it in front of you, it just smashes that whole barrier and preconceived notion that this world isn't for you.
It was with smashing down barriers in mind that in 2018, myself, Mantra, MC Chickaboo and DJ producer Sweet Pea created EQ50. an initiative dedicated to increasing access for femme and non-binary producers in D&B. During the quiet of the pandemic, we launched EQ50's mentorship programme, drawing on decades of industry experience between us, as well as the wisdom of women like Jenna G and Ali Cat, to help those still struggling to see a path for themselves in this world.
Why can't you change your thinking?
And it really was the right time to do it, because that, coupled with the Black Lives Matter movement, meant people were hopefully looking at themselves, looking at their organisations, looking at their friends and family, the dynamics, the racism that lies within all of us. How can we make our practices safer and inclusive for Black people and marginalised genders? And so by launching the EQ50 mentorship for all these people that said they wanted to do better, we were like, aha!
The programme paired 6 women and non-binary producers, each with an established record label, to work closely for a year, gaining invaluable insight, advice and connections that can be hard to come by if you're not a man.
It was such a beautiful experience to be part of and to witness their growth, to witness them blossom. And, you know, they had it all within them anyway. This is the thing. They were all such talented producers.
A whole wave of talented producers are weaving their own stories into the fabric of this music and changing the future of the culture. Who knows, maybe in time, that skewed representation in clubs, in the charts, at festivals will be a thing of the past. Harriet Jackson.
I don't feel surprised anymore to turn up to a show and there'd be like loads of other girls in the lineup. The fact, like, I don't even think about it really now. That is a good song.
In the 30-year history of this culture, there have been many, many times where people have declared drum and bass dead. But what we all see is a music scene that keeps growing, adapting, striving and thriving. So what does that look like for the current generation of pioneers? Next, the old guard and the new faces come together to celebrate the longevity of D&B and to future-proof a culture that's already weathered so much loss. I'm DJ Flight, and you've been listening to Turn It Up, a short history of drum and bass. Hit subscribe to get new episodes when they drop.
Heya, it's Charlie T here, and if you like this podcast, then why not check out Radio 1's Drum and Bass Show? If you're looking for the hottest D&B, fire mixes, and the biggest guests in the world, then we're the one for you. Obviously, I'm a bit biased. Listen now. Just search Drum and Bass in BBC Sounds.
This is Gangster. In this new podcast series, we tell the incredible story of one of the wealthiest, most successful criminals in British history.
Curtis Warren's drug empire was global.
From Toxteth in Liverpool to the Colombian cocaine jungles.
The town of Cali's become the undisputed world capital of cocaine.
A tale of gangland feuds, police corruption and armed robbery.
By the time he got to us, he was in a very, very bad way.
We dug up the garden. There was £1 million.
This is Gangster, the story of Curtis Warren.
Listen first on BBC Sounds.